Okay, so now I'm gonna jump to traffic noise. And a quick background of this is the 23 CFR Part 772 and applicable state laws are followed for projects which require PD&E studies and reevaluations. So effective control of traffic noise requires the control of land use planning next to highways and reasonable and feasible abatement associated with highway projects. I'm going to throw it out there. Doug, I'm going to put you on the spot. So everybody there on the Turnpike, you have an amazing resource. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, but Doug is definitely a walking encyclopedia on when it comes to traffic noise. So some definitions that I want to share for the purpose of this discussion this afternoon. Of course, the manual part 2, chapter 18 of the PD&E manual includes a lot more than these definitions and a lot more detailed information. I just want to kind of highlight some of the areas that I think are worth mentioning for the project managers. So benefited receptor is the recipient of an abatement measure that receives a noise reduction at or above the minimum threshold, which is 5 decibels. The date of public knowledge, which is the date when the environmental document was approved. Noise reduction design goal, which is the optimum desired decibel noise reduction or insertion loss, determined from calculating the difference between the future built noise levels with abatement to future built noise levels without abatement. The department has selected 7 decibels as the noise reduction design goal for 1 or more benefited receptors. Then I wanted to highlight also the statement of likelihood, which is provided in both the noise study report, or NSR, and the environmental document, based on the feasibility and reasonableness analysis completed at the time the environmental document is being approved. There are 3 types when it comes to traffic noise, we look at 3 types. So the type 1 is the highway construction project, which includes new location or physical alteration of an existing highway, which substantially changes horizontal and vertical alignment, profile, or adds capacity. Then there's the type 2, which is a federal aid or state-funded highway project for noise abatement on an existing highway. And I don't want to talk I'm not going to talk about this one too much because in Florida doesn't have a type 2 program. And then there's the type 3, which is a project that does not meet the classifications for type 1 or 2. And type 3 projects do not require a noise analysis. All FDOT highway projects, regardless of funding source, shall be developed in conformance with federal standards for noise abatement as contained in 23 CFR Part 772. So a preliminary review of potential noise impacts associated with a project is conducted during ETDM screening and prior to the PD&E phase. And this is to determine if noise-sensitive receptors are located within the project area, possibility of impact, and it includes the assessment of land use plans, field reviews, aerials, modeling, and important, again, that the PM coordinates with the district noise specialist, aka Doug. Traffic noise impacts occur when modeled future highway traffic noise levels for the worst case noise condition, usually level of service C, approach or exceeds the noise abatement criteria established by 23 CFR 772. I'm going to go a little bit faster here. I know that these presentations will be available to you, and I apologize for trying to run through some of them quicker, but I'm kind of short on time. For traffic noise analysis, for prediction, the analysis shall be completed for the alternatives under detailed study, and for each activity category, under the NAC as shown in the PD&E manual, figure 18-1 in the study area. So the noise level predictions are required for the no build alternative for existing and design year, and for the build alternative for design year only. And the FHWA requires that the traffic noise model, or TNM, be used for modeling traffic for these years. The level equivalent is the noise level descriptor used by the department. The equivalent steady state sound level, which in a stated period of time contains the same acoustic energy as the time varying sound level during the same time period. Okay, so a quick overview of the evaluation for noise abatement. When traffic noise impacts are identified, noise statements shall be considered and evaluated for feasibility and reasonableness. The department shall determine and analyze alternative noise abatement measures to abate identified impacts by giving weight to the benefits and cost abatement of the overall social, economic, and environmental effects by using feasible and reasonable noise abatement measures for these decision making. And at a minimum, the FDOT considers noise abatement in the form of a noise barrier when a traffic noise impact is identified. For feasibility, it must involve noise reduction and engineering considerations, the ability of the noise barrier to provide a reduction of at least 5 decibels to impact the receptors, the cost, the visual impacts, and other factors are not unreasonable. The receptor is not considered benefited if a minimum of 5 decibel reduction cannot be achieved. The number of impacted receptors required to achieve a 5 decibel reduction or greater for a barrier to be considered feasible will be 2 or greater. It also considers the design, construction, safety, access, right-of-way, drainage, and utilities, and considers the additional cost solely to accommodate construction of a noise barrier should be, it is included in the reasonableness evaluation. Okay, safety factors, of course, are included, so you don't want to break into the sight distance of an intersection or driveway. The maximum height of a noise barrier would be 22 feet from the ground. On a bridge or retaining wall structures would be 8 feet. Ground-mounted traffic railing noise barriers, the combination thereof is 14 feet. The reasonableness factors are determined once the abatement measures is determined to be feasible, and reasonableness is determined based on the viewpoints of the benefited property owners and residents, the cost effectiveness of the traffic noise abatement measures, and the achievements of the FDOT noise reduction design goal. The cost effectiveness, all of this, I want to point out the reasonable cost is $42,000 per benefited receptor. And the chapter goes into detail on how this was, this formula was, this $42,000 was calculated. It is determined during the PD&E study. And it is important that a statement of likelihood is included in the environmental document to pursue in the design phase if a noise barrier was considered reasonable and feasible. The noise study report, or NSR, documents the results of the noise analysis. Again, it is summarized in the environmental document. It includes the coordination and communications among stakeholders, including the public workshops. When the environmental document is approved, the PM must send copies to of the study report to local government officials within whose jurisdiction the project is located. And after the date of public knowledge, which again is the date that the environmental document is approved, FDOT is no longer responsible for providing noise abatement to new development which occurs adjacent to the proposed highway project. Documentation in the PD&E phase must identify the statement of likelihood for feasible and reasonable measures of abatement, the noise impact for which no noise abatement measures are feasible and reasonable are also identified in the document. The noise abatement is analyzed during the PD&E phase and during final design prior to plans, specifications, and estimates. The PD&E chapter includes the different statements that could be included, that should be included in the environmental document, depending upon each project, whether there are no impacted receptors or no noise impacted areas require abatement considerations, or no feasible or reasonable abatement is identified. And then the required documentation in the design phase it would be the noise abatement locations, the noise barrier types, lengths, and heights. And then the final noise abatement commitments are documented in the reevaluation and in the addendum to the noise study report prior to construction advertisement. And then the design PM collects all PD&E noise abatement commitments and in the noise study report.